Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, September 14. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he is awaiting the outcome of a report into allegations that persons died because of the oxygen shortage which affected the island recently. According to Mr. Holness, the health authorities are currently compiling the report for him to peruse. The Prime Minister was also quick to remind the public that the lack of medical-grade oxygen was beyond the control of the suppliers, as the world has been experiencing an increased demand for the COVID-19 treatment.
One of the challenges, of course, is that many of the persons who would have unfortunately passed would have also had comorbidities and other issues underlying. So there has to be definitely an investigation into identifying what actually was the cause. So I would await that before I make any further pronouncement. I would just want to say generally, however, that, this is the definition of a crisis. A crisis situation is one in which the resources that you have at your disposal are stretched and not sufficient to address the challenge that you have at hand.
Mr. Holness was addressing reporters while on a recent vaccination mobilization and public education campaign in Northeast St. Andrew and Central Kingston. In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says vaccination ambassadors have been deployed to communities. The Prime Minister says so far there's been an increase in the vaccination take-up due to the work of vaccination ambassadors.
There are many reasons why persons are not taking the vaccines, and having the conversation sometimes helps to resolve some of the skepticism, the fear, and the lack of knowledge. So I'm very hopeful that the community mobilization will reinforce the national message that is being put out by the Ministry of Health and generally by the government of Jamaica.
Up to September 13, over 647,000 doses of vaccines have been administered, with more than 471,000 of them accounting for first doses. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is reassuring parents of children eligible to take the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine that it is safe. Dr. Tufton says children aged 12 and older are being encouraged to take the jab, as there's been no evidence of adverse reaction to the vaccine.
If you look at countries where the Delta variant is dominant right now, more and more children are getting the virus and more children are dying. So that should be a warning to us that we cannot shelter totally in this environment our children or any of us without the vaccination as a solution. I'm encouraging all Jamaicans to participate.
Minister Tufton was speaking during a tour of community vaccination sites in Hanover, Westmoreland and St. James. He says Western Jamaica continues to represent one of the higher points of positivity for COVID-19, which is why the ministry has been ramping up vaccination efforts in these areas. The minister says surveillance and monitoring are also being carried out. Parents are being encouraged to maintain open communication with school administrators to ensure their children's educational needs are being met. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Grace McLean, made the plea during a recent virtual parents' town hall meeting.
Parents, another 5, 15, 20 years from now, we do not want to be looking back at those children who would have been severely affected by this pandemic that we didn't cause on ourselves and say that this is a lost generation. So we are prepared to do everything that we possibly can to assist in ensuring that your children access the type of education that will make them into the kind of citizens who are socially acclimatized to a civilized society.
Dr. McLean says the ministry also communicates directly through email with parents and children to provide up-to-date information on matters concerning their education. Since the start of the new school year on September 6, institutions have been conducting remote classes due to COVID-19. It's expected that once the vaccination rate among eligible children reaches 65% and above, a determination will be made on the resumption of face-to-face classes. And finally, $323 million will be pumped into improving roads in North Trelawney. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everald Warmington, made the disclosure during a recent tour of the parish. Upgrades will include asphalting, patching and drainage improvement. Minister Warmington says $218 million has been set aside for the roadway between Wakefield and Deeside. $20 million each has been allocated for Phase 1 of the Rio Bueno to Jacksontown Road, Deeside to Dromely, and Saltmarsh to Kent. The installation of a box culvert at the Perth Town fording will cost $20 million, while $5 million will go towards road patching in Martha Brae.
And I'll be coming back because this allocation is not enough to address what I've seen here today. So we have to look at it again, and my job is to go through with these members of parliament, particularly the 19 new members of parliament, and try and address the situation there. So I'll be back to look at others to see how much I can improve the situation and assist the member of parliament to be a good and true representative of the people.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.